How do you see this playing out? I mean, many defence experts have already said that an air campaign alone is simply not enough. Is boots on the ground realistically inevitable here?
That is one of the many central questions, Nika, that people are grappling with. And this war does remain quite controversial and has lots of camps and factions, including from Trump's base, that are not that wild about it. And this would be one of the big reasons for that. It depends on what the objectives are. And I know the president has come out and given some of them, but even that messaging has been a little bit all over the map in the last few hours. And so couple of days, I should say. And so if the goal is regime change, which many in the Trump camp would hopefully say that is not the goal, it is hard to imagine that happening without boots on the ground. That's what defense experts say, that it's just really hard to do that from the air. If the goal is just destroying military capability further, their missiles program, their Navy fleet, et cetera, that could be done with fewer or hopefully no boots on the ground. So I think as the objectives become a little bit more clear, the answer to the question you're asking will also become clear. But right now, the president has said it himself in that he's not ruling it out, and that makes a lot of people very nervous.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And just on that, you did mention that Donald Trump has laid out some of those objectives. We've got them. Let's have a listen.
Objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis. We're annihilating their Navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea.
And that they were just a few that he mentioned, Kosher. But what does this mean for Donald Trump politically? He's got clear objectives, clearly. He does want to bring peace to the region. And I certainly give him a lot of credit for actually having the gall to go in and do this. No other leader has had the courage to take on a regime. But does that come at a cost? Or is he supported by the MAGA base, especially in a midterm year?
And that is what I was alluding to in my earlier piece. Right now, look, it's early days. We're in the fog of war. So this can go in any which way still. Many directions are possible. But right now, he is paying a price politically for it. He has consistently been the anti-war president, president of peace, peace through strength, but not through active military engagement. Well before he even entered the political arena, he is consistently on the record criticizing the Bush years and the Iraq war and earned this moniker as being the president who started no new wars in his first term and all the rest of it. So this is getting people turning into a little bit of a head scratcher from him, because maybe I do believe that he hasn't made the case very well preemptively. He's come out right now with those objectives, and more will be told. If this wraps up quickly and he can consolidate his power, and it looks something like Operation Midnight Hammer, the 12-day war from June, or even the operation in Venezuela, something like that, quickly, tightly, and minimal U.S. casualties, though sadly there already have been 6, then I think the American people will move on. And if coupling that, he's doing well on the domestic agenda, it'll be fine. If he does get sucked into boots on the ground, even at a smaller scale like we just talked about, or it stretches on for beyond a few weeks, which is what he's signaling, hopefully it'll be, no more than, then this will cost him politically. And already he's a little bit on defense, the Republicans, broadly speaking, with the midterm elections looming. Democrats seem to be on offense. They've picked up some wins recently. And this just now throws a whole new wrench into the mix. And if Republicans do lose the midterms, that is going to cost him politically. It's going to cost him personally, because the Democrats will pursue impeachment, and his whole agenda for the last 2 years of his presidency will be facing a lot of opposition from them.
Yeah. Look, it remains to be seen. But, to your point, I mean, if this does wrap up quickly, then this has to be one of the greatest foreign policy achievements in modern history, I would say. The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, he gave an outstanding speech. He's, I guess, shed some light on Operation Epic Fury, claiming it is laser-focused and designed to destroy the Iranian missile production. But this particular part stood out in particular. Have a listen.
If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you.
Well, Kosher, that's strong. There's no mucking around there. This is sending a clear warning to America's enemies. What does it say about the War Department?
Unmistakable for sure. And, Pete Hegseth, of course, is not responsible for the decision and the calculus thereof that we've discussed before in the political price. He is responsible for executing on the mission once a commander-in-chief, the president, has made the decision, which he did. And insofar as that role goes, it is such an upgrade from Lloyd Austin, who was his predecessor in the Biden years, just in terms of the way he speaks, not mincing words. We've seen now this is the third military operation that the U.S. has conducted, and it really has stunned the world, from the prowess of the special ops team in capturing Maduro without sustaining a single a casualty in Venezuela, to Midnight Hammer, to now even this one so far, just the might of the air power and the logistical coordination and everything else. It is the American military still does reign supreme, even as we've got other countries like China and other militaries building up. The American military is second to none, and he being the face of it and the voice for it certainly makes no mistake and makes that statement clear for anybody who might be thinking of threatening Americans, as he says.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also blows up the whole Democrat and left narrative. I mean, they're saying, oh, no, we should have engaged in a lot of diplomacy. Well, you can't trust the Ayatollah. You can't trust that regime. And I just thought that Pete Hegseth put it so strongly and just very, very well worded, that's for sure. Now, Israel, on the other hand, is fighting Iran now on its proxies. So two fronts. A resurgent Hezbollah has attacked the country's north to avenge the killing of the Ayatollah. I mean, look, this was, I guess, inevitable, Kosher. While the head of the snake has been cut off, so to speak, how big now are the risk of these proxy groups coming in and trying to resurrect the ideology?
Mm-hmm. So the proxy network definitely seems to be weakened from everything that's gone on really in the past 2 years leading up to this point. Israel has been fighting a lot of them, of course, Hamas, and Gaza is significantly dismantled fully, or not fully, but almost fully, we could say. Hezbollah is weakened, even though they're popping up again with this, but Israel has been fighting them for a long time, and they're probably the weakest that they have been in some time. The Houthis have sort of been quiet. They're still a threat, but with Iran significantly weakened and not being able to back them, it does certainly suggest that they are not at their strongest point either. There are other militias in Iraq and Syria, things like that maybe are intact, but just get a little bit more scattered when the head of the snake, as you say, is weakened. The last one, though, that I think is also important to think about in terms of their proxy network is sleeper cells, potentially. And this is one back to why the decision is a little bit controversial back home of going into this, is how many sleeper cells are there of people that were sympathetic to the Ayatollah's regime in the U.S. and other Western countries in the world, and especially in the U.S., given the illegal immigration problem that we had in the last 4 years in particular. So many people have poured into the country. We don't know who they are. And are any of them potentially proxies beyond the traditional ones that I just covered that could be activated? And will we see terror attacks on the homeland? That is still a question mark, and that keeps a lot of people up at night.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Look, there are so many unknowns, but I did think it was interesting how the axis of evil has been taken out since October 7. And again, it's taken the courage of Israel and now the courage of the United States to get rid of the heads of the snake, a lot of the leaders, Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, Hassan Nasrallah at Hezbollah. So it's been fascinating to see. It's a shame it took October 7 to get to this point. Let's talk about the Liberal media coverage on this. It's been, unsurprisingly, an absolute disgrace. The New York Times headline, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, hardline cleric who made Iran a regional power, is dead. I mean, seriously, it puts a positive spin on it. But this actual article, it said, with his bushy white beard and easy smile, Ayatollah Khamenei cut a more avuncular figure in public than his perpetually scowling but much more revered mentor, and he was known to be fond of Persian poetry and classic Western novels, especially Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. Look, quite frankly, Kosher, I couldn't care less whether he liked poetry or not. And I'm sure that the Iranians, who've been under persecution, under a shoot-to-kill policy, couldn't give a toss about his poetry. They wouldn't put Hitler on the front page and describe him like that. What do you make of the coverage?
They're making complete fools of themselves. The things that can be debated about this and the decision and the timing and the tactics and all of that, there's legitimate discussions to be had. But across people on all those camps, not a single one is unhappy with the Ayatollah would defend him or unhappy with him being removed. Everybody agrees on that. This was a very tyrannical head of a very tyrannical regime that subjugated millions of people for years. And to put that kind of gloss and varnish on him, I think they're making fools of themselves. People pointed out how they don't do that, or they rush to go in the other direction for Trump supporters who've, unfortunately, whether it's Charlie Kirk or others recently who've passed away, they try to minimize and diminish them in the headline, and then they're sort of puffing up the Ayatollah. So, good job, New York Times. There's a reason why a lot of people don't take them seriously anymore. And it's sad because it once was the paper of record, but how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, once you start fawning over a dictator, you know that the paper's gone absolutely backwards. Koshigata, nice to see you as always. Thanks very much for your time.